Good afternoon, all of you. Myself, Teres Bemila, working as an assistant professor from Shanankar Kachi Engineering College, welcomes you all for the today's day 2, session 3. Among us, we have Ms. Archana Chowgule ma'am and Mr. Manish Belande sir. We have a great pleasure to welcome this both the today's esteemed speaker, Ms. Archana ma'am. Uh, she is working as an assistant professor in the information department of our Shanankar Kachi Engineering College. She has a total of 14 plus years of experience in the research and education. Madam has completed ME in computer engineering from Mumbai University. She have got a Best Social Impact Project Award by the TechNext India 2019. She has published various research papers in a reputed national and international journals. Madam's main area of interest is embedded system, IoT, and cloud computing, distributed system, web programming, as well as e-commerce and data analytics. We are glad to welcome you, ma'am.
Thanks a
And
lot.
also we have, and yes, thank you, ma'am. And also we have among us uh, the another esteemed speaker, Mr. Manish Belande sir. He's also an assistant professor belonging to IT department of Shanankar Kachi Engineering College. Sir has an overall of year of 13 years of plus experience in research and as well as education. Sir has completed his ME in information technology from Mumbai University. Sir has published various research papers in a very reputed national and an international journals. Sir, main area of interest is embedded system, IoT, cloud computing, data science, e-commerce and big data analytics. We are glad to welcome you, sir. And I welcome
Thank you,
all
ma'am.
the,
Thanks a lot.
thank you, sir. I welcome even the participants who are attending this AICTE IST sponsored online refresher program on developing secure IoT. So we have two speakers who have a great knowledge on this particular IoT platform. I request Ms. Achna ma'am as well as Mr. Manish Belande sir to take over the session.
Thanks a lot, Bemila ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot, Bemila ma'am, for your wonderful introduction. Uh, Now it is okay.
Yes, sir, it is okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. A very good afternoon to all. I welcome you for the today's third session on IoT application protocol. Well, participants, you know that the protocol plays a very important role for the successful communication. Without the communication, the devices cannot be interact with each other, right? So, okay. So these are my contents for the today's session that I'm going to cover. So the flow is it starts with the introduction, then we will go for the architecture, then what are the layers for it and the protocols. But obviously this session is totally focused on the protocols. That gives an idea about the, I'm giving you the idea about the MQTT that will gives its brief introduction, then it's what are its features, then we'll move to application, then it's working, what are its components, then what are its QoS levels, that is the quality of service, and then we compare MQTT with HTTP. And lastly, we are going to see the what are the various kinds of MQTT brokers. So these are the topics that I am going to cover. Okay. So now I'm going to start with the introduction, that is the Internet of Things. I hope you people are now very much aware about the what is the exactly the concept about an IoT. Just a moment. I will. Yeah, sorry. Uh, So now you people are very much aware about an IoT. From the last 2 days, we are continuously hearing the sessions and uh, about the IoT, then what is its importance and how it has been called as the future of means the future generations, and that we are going to see in the means it's become the right now we are becoming the IoT has become the very much you can say the uh, part of our life. And these things all it has been happens because of the internet. Okay, so you people are very much aware that the IoT net is nothing but collects and combines the data from the multiple devices and applies analytics to share the most of the valuable data with application to address industry specific needs. So that is the main thing, or the main uh, that has been that is the main thing, and where you can say the IoT that has been yet using nowadays. And you know that make what are the things that means almost in every area that this IoT it has been every domain now the IoT has becoming an important part, you can say. So this IoT, you know that it is not it's not a single technology. It's a combination of multiple technology that connected the devices with each other. So now how we can connect the devices that can be, we can make it as a smart, either by connecting any sensors or any RFID tags or any actuators. So so that device can transmit or receive the signal. So that is the nothing, and that we are connecting with the help of the internet. Just take an example, means right now we are handling these devices with the help of our smartphone. So this is the main concepts or of the IoT. So I just want to just short introduction that this technology has been firstly invented by Kevin Ashton, uh, which who you can say this refer this, or who had used these terms in Procter and Gamble in 1999. Okay, then, and we know that this because of this IoT, the devices can be accessed from the distance that securely communicate with an IoT platform. So that is the main beauty of IoT. So now we are moving to the architecture. So now what is an IoT architecture? Architecture, you know that it is the basic framework for any of the technology. So we are having this IoT architecture. So that gives you the idea, means what are the fundamentals of this, what is the main fundamentals of this, on which layer it has been mostly depends. So it has the three layers. The first one is your perception layer, next one is your network layer, and third one is your application layer. In perception layers, we have the sensors, actuators, and edge devices that interact with the environment. Means here they can collect the data, and it has to transfer for the further processing to the network layer. Okay, now the network layer, what it does, it discovers, connect, and translate the devices over a network in coordination with the application layer. Okay, so that's why it has been shown that it has been whatever the communication that has been occurring between the application layer. Obviously, the application layer consists the data processing and the storage with specialized services and functionality for the users. Here, the specialized services that can be here, you can see that in the diagram, they have the cloud services, which can be AWS or the server farms, or even a company premises remote server also. So these are the three basic fundamentals layers for IoT architecture. So based on this, all the things, means all the further communication it has been get occurred. So now moving next. So so based on this architecture, we have an example. So let us see how an architecture elements work together. Here is an example of a smart lighting as a part of the smart home. So here there are components that has been connected, things which we can call as the things that has been equipped with the sensors to gather the data and actuators to perform the commands received from the clouds. So here we are going to see one by one the components that has been get connected to make this home as a smart. So the first one, that is the gateways. as we know that the gateways are used for the data filtering, pre-processing and moving it to the cloud and vice versa. That is the receiving commands from the cloud. Then we have the cloud gateways, that is to ensure that the data transition between the field gateways and the central IoT servers. Now next one we have the streaming data processor, that is to distribute the data coming from the sensors among the relevant IoT solution components. Then we have the data lake. So data lake, what it does, it stores the raw data coming from the sensors. That is, it can be defined or an undefined value. Then we have a big data warehouse. It contains the extracted information for smart home devices behavior in various days, that of the week, energy cost and more. Then we have the control application that is used to send the command to the actuators. Then we have the machine learning. The machine learning is like to generate the models which are then used by the control application. For example, if the smart home owner behavior that he wants to adjust the time when the lights he wants to switch on and off. Then we have the user application that enables the user to monitor the control their connected things. And the last one is the data analytics that has been useful for the manual data processing. So these are the components or these are the devices that makes this example means that completes this smart home lighting system. So moving to the next, we have the IoT layers. So now here we can see that in this is figure, that is the IoT reference model, which has the 7 layers. Here we can start with the layer 1, which is the physical devices and controller, which is also referred as the things in IoT. That is that it forms the system design, means it is the from the system design of perspective, the things are the sensors and devices that are directly managed by the IoT architecture. Then the second layer is which is called as the connectivity, which is mostly useful for the communication purposes. Communication and processing the data units. That includes the various network protocol that can be a wired or the wireless. Means physical like routers, switches, firewalls, servers. These are all the means that can comes into the layer 2. Then we have the edge computing, which is also called as the cloud edge or the cloud gateway computing that serves as a bridge between your local application and a remote cloud-based storage. So that's the main, that is the means it transforms the data, okay, depending upon the type of the application. So that's why it is called as the bridge between the local application and the remote cloud-based storage. Next, we have the data accumulation. It gives the velocity, volume, and variety for incoming data from physical device and controllers. Means, as you know, it's a layer 4. It consists of the big data and the storage of the storage of things data. So that's why it provides the storage for the processing, integrating, and normalizing. Next, we have our data abstraction. It will abstract the data interface for applications like combining the data from multiple sources and simplifying its application. And sixth layer that represents the application layer that provides the services and determines the set of protocol for message passing at the application layer. And that is the 7th layer, which is also called as the collaboration and process. So this layer is about human interaction with all the layers of the IoT system. So this is the just brief description about the IoT layers, IoT reference model. Next, now moving towards the protocols. As I now told you, the protocols that plays an important role in any networking devices to make the communication successful. Okay, so there are in IoT we are having the 4 protocols. Which one are that are CoAP, which is called as the Constraint Application Protocol. Next, we are having MQTT, that is the Message Queue Telemetry Transport Code Protocol. Then we have AMQP, that is the Advanced Message Queuing Protocol. Then we, last one is Data Distribution Services, which is the DSS. So these are the 4 main protocols that has been used in the IoT, most of the IoT application. And again, I'm telling you, this depends again the kind of the application that you are generating or using. So based on that, the protocol can be get chosen. So we are going to see one by one. So first one is the constraint application protocol, which is referred as CoAP, which has been designed for the simple constraint devices to join the IoT through the constraint network having the low bandwidth availability. So such protocol, it has been used wherever when we are having the low bandwidth availability. And this protocol is primarily useful for the machine-to-machine communication and is particularly designed for the IoT system that are based on HTTP protocols. So this protocol, it has been explained in detail by my colleague, Ms. Archana Chaugule ma'am. Next one is I am going to focus on the MQTT protocol, which is a message queue telemetry transport protocol. So this protocol normally used for the far away tracking. Means it's the primary challenge is to gather the statistics from many gadgets when you are having your multiple resources, and when you want to do the statistical study or the moving traffic or the moving public in the mall or such kind of the data, if you want to if suppose there are the cattle in the fields and if they are roaming around and if you want to count the number of cattle and all that, so such kind of the moving things they can easily capture through means these are the examples where such kind of the protocols can be used. So means where the multiple resources from where we can collect the data, and MQTT connects the gadgets and network with the specified with packages and middleware. So that is the main concept about this MQTT. Then we are having then advanced message queuing protocol, which is a software layer protocol for message oriented middleware environment. And it supports the reliable verbal exchange through message transport warranty preemptives like at least once, and exactly as soon as the shipping. So means that are nothing that shows the QoS, that is the quality of services. Then we have the data distribution services protocol. So it enables a scalable, real-time, reliable, excessive overall performance and interoperable statistics via the submit subscribe technique. Okay, so here this data distribution service uses the submit subscribe technique, where I am going to focusing on the MQTT that uses the public subscribe technique. Okay, and this data is used when this DSS is uses whenever we have to convey high quality of services to application. So that's why in most of the IoT application, this DSS DDSS protocol services is most rarely used. Okay, so that's all. These are all the four IoT protocols. So I told you that I am going to focus on the MQTT protocol, which is a message queue telemetry transport protocol. So the figure shows the diagram, just a brief diagram about an MQTT. Which is the one of the most commonly used protocol in IoT application, and it has been connected to the various devices, that is the multiple resources. This MQTT is nothing kind of the means it uses the broker, which is called as the server, and that has been connected to the various devices. So now just a introduction about this MQTT, that is it is a machine-to-machine connectivity protocol, and here it has been invented by the Dr. Andy Stanford Clark of IBM and Arlen Nipper of ARCOM in 1999. In the starting only, I had told you this the concept it has been is introduced in 1999. Then it is having the standards of OSIS and ISO standards, which is and it also a public and loyalty free license. And this protocol mostly used by the Amazon Web Services, IBM WebSphere MQ, then Microsoft Azure IoT, then Adafruit, Facebook Messenger. So these are the some applications. These are the all popular names that uses these services. Even the WhatsApp Messenger is also use this protocol. Then what are its features? It is based on the public subscribe message exchange pattern, and it has been ideal for processor or memory whose memory resources are limited. Then it works on the top of TCP/IP. This is the protocol that we mostly use. Means it can be used with the TCP/IP also. Then it has the quality of services that is at most one, at least one, and exactly once. Then it supports the client libraries for Arduino, Android, then Arduino, then C, C++, C Sharp, Java, JavaScript, .NET. So these are the most commonly used languages for the web development, and it has been get supported by this technology. Next, we are having the main concern is about the security, means the authentication and authorization that can be mostly used by using its username and password, encryption using SSL and TSL, that is your secure socket layer and transport layer security. Then it also supports the persistent, that is MQTT has the support for persisting messages stored in the broker, and even it works on the non-TCP/IP networks, that is the ZigBee. It uses the MQTT SN, that is for the sensor network also. So because of this all features, it has been mostly popularly used in the IoT. So these are some applications, that is the home automation. Then we have, it can be used in healthcare, mobile phone apps, that is in the messaging monitoring. Just now I told you the WhatsApp is also use this MQTT, then industrial automation, then we have automotive and general applications of the IoT. These are the application areas. Then it's working. Just now I mentioned you, it works on the public subscribe model. So what is this? This I told you MQTT is nothing but a kind of the server, which is also called as the broker. Means it is based on the client and server, where MQTT server is a broker and the clients are simply the connected device. As I told you, it collects the data from the multiple resources for the far away tracking. When the device, that is the clients, want to send the data to the broker, we can call this operation as a publish. And whenever the client want to receive the data from the broker, we can call this operation as a subscribe. So that's why I told you this MQTT works on the publish subscribe model. Now let's take an example. For MQTT, let's say there is a device that has a temperature sensor. You can see this MQTT, that's a schematic data flow from sensor to device machine, where it has the device that has the temperature sensors. Certainly it wants to send his readings to the broker. And on the other side, a phone or the desktop application wants to receive this temperature value. So now receive the temperature value. So now in this such case, therefore the two things will happen. The first thing is that the device defines the topic it wants to publish on the publish on, that is the example is the temperature. Then it publishes the temperature value, that is the 21.3 Celsius. And the next is that the phone or the desktop application subscribes to the topic temperature. Then it receives the message that the device has published, which is the temperature value. Again, the broker role is here to take the message temperature value and deliver it to the phone or the desktop application. So this is the working flow, or just you can say the example how the temperature sensor collects the value and how it has been get accessed by its various clients, and again how the clients can transmit the data to the broker. So this is about the so this is a small example of simple and small example of MQTT. Now, what are the components that has been mostly used for this? So first one is your broker that handles the data transmission between the client. Then we have a topic, that is a device want to put or to retrieve message to and from. Then we have the message, which is the actual data that the device receives when subscribing from a topic or sent when publishing to a topic. Then we have the publish and subscribe, that is the publish is the process a device does to send its message to the broker, and subscribe where the device does to retrieve a message from the broker. So this is about all the components of MQTT. Then I told you in the previous slides, what are the QoS? The QoS plays a very important role. That is one of the important feature of MQTT, that is the quality of services. So it has the three quality of services. That is the utmost, means the broker will receive the published message only at once, then at least once. In this level, the publisher continuously sends the message until it's received. Means here the acknowledgement signal is means we can receive, it receives an acknowledgement from the broker. So this is mostly used QoS level, and exactly once when the publisher and the broker work in the tandem to ensure that the subscriber receives message exactly once. So it is the safest and most guaranteed QoS level. But because of this publishing and receiving and all, so it is the slowest one. Thus, it is used whenever it is necessary. So this is the diagram of diagrammatically representation of different QoS levels in MQTT protocol. Just now I told you in the public that is the QoS level 2, where it has the public receive, where it has the public release and public complete. So because of these three-way communication, it has been the slowest one, and it has been used wherever it has been necessary. So again, depends on its application, type of the application, wherever depends on that which QoS level is you need to use. So now next question arises, why we require the MQTT as we have an HTTP protocol. So what's the main thing that why should we go for the MQTT? So this is the comparison. I took just important points, so that you can say the parameters means that suggest why we should go for the MQTT instead of HTTP. So here we know the full form of MQTT and HTTP. Then we have the design methodology. Wherever the MQTT is the data centric, it's mostly concentrated on the data, not the document centric, which is an HTTP. Then its architecture. I told you this works on the publish and subscribe model, whereas HTTP works on request response. Then we have the complexity, which is the very simple here in MQTT, whereas in request response as it HTTP, you have so it is the bit complex. Then the size of the message. In MQTT it has a small with a compact binary header, just 2 bytes in the size, whereas as it is a document centric, so it's a larger partly because the status in the text based. Next, service levels. It has the 3 quality of service level. Just now we have seen QoS 0 level, 1 level, and 2 level. Here in the HTTP, all messages get the same level of the services. Then the data distribution is mostly it is 0 to 1, 1 to 1, and 1 to 0. So, but here it supports only 1 to 1, the data distribution, as it is a request response. Whereas the security, I just now told you the security and the persistency we have seen in the feature. Obviously, it provides the MQTT as it works with the SSL and TSL. So the data is much more secured in MQTT, whereas in HTTP it is less secured. So now the brokers. So what are the broker? I just now told you broker is nothing one kind of the server. Okay, so there are a lot of kind of the servers that has been available. So there are many brokers that implement the MQTT protocol. One of the most properly and commonly used broker is the Mosquitto. So the Mosquitto is an open source message broker that implements the MQTT protocol. It's a lightweight and suitable for all the devices from a low power single board like Arduino ESP8266 to full computers and servers. So I am just mentioning the name of the famous Mosquitto brokers like ThinkMQ, ThinkStudio, MQTT.io, then the ThinkSpeak and Cloud MQTT. So these are the various kinds of the protocols and the simulators are also available for each and every broker. So these are the kinds of the broker that can be used in which are the Mosquitto brokers. So thank you. So that's all from my side for the MQTT broker. So the now next protocol, that is the CoAP, that will be explained by my colleague Miss Archana Chougule ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, thanks a lot, sir. Good evening, all the participants and all the technical teams. Those are involved in this HTTP. Myself, Archana Chougule from IT department. Today is the second day of HTTP. This is the last session of second day. So I'm going to discuss about one more IoT protocol, which are nothing but the CoAP. So what is the CoAP stand for? Constant Application Protocol. So it is a web transfer protocol which is specially designed to transfer data or to transfer the messages between the client and the server. So today I'm going to discuss about brief introduction about the CoAP. What are the features of CoAP? Then we are going to learn the basic structure or architecture of CoAP. Then we are going to discuss about what is a CoAP and HTTP, differences of these two protocols which are commonly used for the communication between the client and server. Then what is the structure model and message format for CoAP. Then we are going to discuss about what are the securities possibility in CoAP protocols. And the lastly, we are going to discuss about what is the similarity between MQTT protocol, which are just now discussed about by the Manish sirs, and the CoAP, and what is the difference between these two protocols. To start with the introductions, we know that the application layer is usually employed on the HTTP protocol, which provide the web services to the clients. But when we talk about the HTTP protocols, it having some constraints. For example, high computation complexity, low data transmission rate, or high energy consumptions. So when we have some constraints, then IETF, that is Internet Engineering Task Force, developed one lightweight protocol, which are nothing but the CoAP. So we can say that the CoAP is a specialized web transfer protocol, which we can use with the constrained nodes and the constrained networks. For example, low power, low bandwidth, or like that, many constraints which we needed or which we having specifically for the IoT applications. When we talk about the features of the CoAP, so we know that the CoAP is a web transfer lightweight protocol which is specially designed for the constant resources. Then it designed for the M2M application, that is machine to machine applications, which may include the smart energy or building automations. Then it transfer the messages or extend the messages which are asynchronous, means it support the asynchronous communications between the client and the server. Then it's having the low overhead, means it is simple structures and simple parsing. Then it support the content type and the URI. It having the simple proxy capability and the caching capability. It supports both unicasting and multicasting communications. It based upon the UDP, that is user datagram protocol. And lastly, it supports the datagram transport layer security, that is DTLS. So when we talk about the CoAP architectures, it's based on the REST architectures. So in the diagram, we can say that we have the internet environments and we having the constrained environments. So when we talk about the internet environments, server and the client can be communicate with each other with the help of HTTP protocol. But when we have the constraint, so that means when the client having some resource constraints, that client will be use a CoAP and it become the CoAP clients. So in the diagram, we can see that the proxy devices will be bridges the gap between the constrained environments and the internet environments. So the constrained environment is based upon the CoAP communication between the client and server, and the internet, where we don't have the resource constraints, there's a communication between the client and server with the help of HTTP protocol. Now, CoAP provide the URI and it support the 4 different type of REST methods, which are nothing but GET, POST, PUT, and the delete. Then we know that CoAP support the multicastings. It's very important for the group communication for the different IoT applications in different domains. Then we can say in the simple word or the single sentence, HTTP we can use under the unconstrained networks, whereas the CoAP we can use under the constrained network. So when we are going to compare the CoAP and HTTP, I've mentioned here some few points about the CoAP and the HTTP. The first point is that the CoAP is based upon the UDP, whereas the HTTP is based upon the TCP. What does TCP stand for? Transmission Control Protocol. Then we'll talk about the network layer. CoAP will be used as the IPv6, that's the Internet Protocol version 6, along with 6LoWPAN. What is 6LoWPAN stand for? Low Power Wireless Personal Area Networks. And HTTP uses the IP layer, that is Internet Protocol layer. When you talk about the multicast supporting, CoAP will be supported, but HTTP doesn't support the multicasting. Then we'll talk about the architecture model. CoAP will be support both type of the models, that is client server models and public subscriber model, whereas HTTP supports only one type of the model, that is a server and client or client and server models. Then when you talk about the synchronous communications, CoAP doesn't need it, but the HTTP needs this communications, where we have the communication need the synchronization. Then when you talk about the CoAP, the overhead is less and it's very simple, but in the HTTP it's a complex and it's a more overhead. And the lastly, CoAP is specially designed for the applications, which includes the wireless sensor network applications, IoT application, and machine-to-machine applications or communications. Where when we talk about the HTTP, is specially designed for the internet devices where there is no any issues of the resources. Now, when we talk about the CoAP structure model, it having the 2 layers. That the first layer is the message layer, which are specially designed to deal with the UDP and asynchronous switching. Whereas the request response layer is a concern with the communication methods which are supported by the CoAP, and it deals with the request response messages. Now, CoAP support the 4 different types of the messages: confirmable, non-confirmable messages, acknowledgement, and the rest. And it supports the 2 different types of the message transport: reliable message transport and unreliable message transport. When you talk about the reliable message transport, we can see that there is a sender and the receiver, means there is a client and the server. So, client means sender will be send the confirmable message until it get the acknowledged message from the receiver. So, how to identify that the acknowledgement is coming from the receiver for the same message? With the message ID. So, in the diagram, we can see that when the sending the confirmable message with the message ID 1337, receiver sending the acknowledgement message with the message ID again say 1337. But if the reception fail, means if receiver is failed to process this message, it may be responsive by replacing this acknowledged message with a reset message. But it give the acknowledgement for the reliable message transport communication. When you talk about the unreliable message transport, okay, so here the sender means client will be send the non-confirmable message, okay, but it doesn't need the acknowledgement message from the receiver, which may contain the message ID, but for supervising in case of retransmission. That means when the sender is sending the non-confirmable message to the receiver, it don't accept the acknowledgement, but it contains the message ID if is needed for in the future, okay, for the supervising of retransmission of the same message. Then if the reception is failed to process the message, its server will be reply with the reset message. Talk about the request response layer model. The first method is piggyback. What does the piggyback stand for? It indicates that all the requests and the responses will be come in the one package. For example, in the diagram, we can see that client will be sending the confirmable message with the message ID, okay, then token numbers and the get methods. Then server will be send the acknowledgement with the same message ID, the same token number and the content to give the reply to the client. That means for the successful responses, acknowledgement message contain the response message which are identified by using the token. But for the failure responses, acknowledgement contains the failure responses code. But server will be give the acknowledgement, okay, but it is in the one message or in the one bag we can say. That's why it is called the piggyback system. When you go for the separate responses for the confirmable messages, in this case, if the server is received the confirmable message but not able to respond this immediately, then it will send the acknowledged message with the empty message. That means in the diagram we can see that client is sending the message, that is a confirmable message with the message ID, then token number and the get method. Server is not able to process that immediately, so it is sending the acknowledged message with the same message ID. But if after some time the server is ready to process that request, that it will be sent a new confirmable message to the client, and client will be reply this with the acknowledgement message. Then separate request and response for non-confirmable message. In this case, client will be sent the non-confirmable message which indicate that server don't need to confirm it, and server will be resend a non-confirmable message with the responses. That means client is not expecting the acknowledged message of the server, but server may send the or resend the non-confirmed message to the client within the form of the responses. So server send the request for the non-confirmed message, and server will be then a client will be send the request in the non-confirmed message, and server will be give the response for the non-confirmable message. Then CoAP also support the ping communication. What it indicate that sender will be send the empty confirmed message to the server. That means client will be sending the empty confirmed message to the server, and server will be receive the response, okay, with the empty reset message. That means whenever we are sending the messages from the client to the server, both will be indicating that we are sending some message, and the server will be sending that it will be resetting the messages. So it is pinging between or ping communication between the client and the server. Then the next is that what is the message format of the CoAP? So in the diagram we can see that it is a very simple binary format of the messages which we are transmitting between the client and the server. So it is a fixed size 4-byte header. Now when we talk about the first row, that is a fixed size 4-byte header, is divided into 5 different fields. First is the version, second is the T that indicate the type, then token, code and the message ID. So what that indicate, the version will be indicate, it is a 2-bit unsigned integer bits which are used to indicate the version of the CoAP. Then T will be indicate, it is a 2-bit unsigned integer which indicate the type of the message. If the value of the T is 0, means message is confirmable. If the value of T is 1, message is non-confirmable. Then the next field is a token. What is the token length? Is the token length is indicate the length of the token which are transmitting, and it is the size of this field is 4-bit. And then when we talk about the code fields, it is a code responses. The size of this is 8-bit length. And the last is the message ID. It is identify the messages with the 16-bit length, or it may be the more than that, but most probably it having the 16-bit length to indicate the message ID. Then we are having the variable length token field, then we are having the option field, and then we are having the payload field. And when we talk about the code field, it is 8-bit, right? So it indicates that if the message carries request message or the empty message or the response message. If that code field having the value 1 to 31 is indicate that the message having the or carrying the request message. If the code field having the 64 to 191 value, it indicates carrying the response message. Or if it is empty, it will be having the 0 value. Again, the diagram we can see that it's 8-bit again divided into different parts, class and the code. So the three most significant bits will be form the class, which are analogous to class of HTTP status code, and the 5 least significant bits form the code that communicate further detail about the request or response. Now here I mentioned some request code and the response code. When you talk about the request code, I mentioned some example 0.00. If the code value is 0.00, means description will indicate that is an empty message. Then if the value of the code in the request code is 0.01 is the get method. Same thing for 0.02 indicate the post method, 0.03 indicate the put method, and 0.05 indicate the delete method. When you talk about the response code, in that same thing, in the response code also be having the different values for the response code. 2.01 indicate the created, 2.02 indicate deleted, 2.03 indicate valid. The next is change, content, bad request, unauthorized, or bad option. So depending upon what it's carrying, it has the different values in the request code and the response code. Again, when you talk about the more example I mentioned here, 4.03 indicate the forbidden, then 4.0 indicate not found. Like that, we can continue with 5.05 will indicate the proxy is not supported. Then next is the option field. So this option field is somehow similar to HTTP headers. Again, the option field we can see that is define the metadata that will be sent to the other endpoints. Again, the option field divided into two fields actually and in the two parts, option delta and the option length. Option delta may be extended, it may be none, it may be 8-bit or 16 bits. Same thing for the option length extended, it may be none, it may be 8 bits or the 16 bits. And the last field is the option value. Here I mentioned two examples of the option fields. For example, suppose having the number is 3 and the name is URI host. What is the format of this string? What is the length in the bytes? 1 to 255 bytes. What is the description will indicate that this is a host name or IP address of the CoAP server on which the resource is being requested. One more example I mentioned here, URI port. What indicate that? It is an unsigned integer value. What is the length of this? 0 to 2 bytes. What indicate that? The UDP port number of the CoAP server. Now, what are the securities for the CoAP? Actually, when we talk about the security, it's very important that we have to consider the three main elements. That is integrity, authentication, and confidentiality. Now, so when you talk about these 3 points, the DTLS, that is datagram transport layer security, can achieve all of them. So the DTLS is application layer protocol which protect the end-to-end communications. Now, DTLS solve the two problems. First is the reordering, second is the packet loss. So it can put these three implementations: packet retransmission, sending sequence numbers in the handshakes, and replay detection. Now in the diagram we can see the simple structure of DTLS. So DTLS avoid the cryptographic overhead problem that occurs in the lower layer security protocols. So there are two layers in the DTLS. First one is the bottom one which contain the record protocol, and the top one include the three protocols. First is the alert, second is the handshake, and third one is the application data. Now, DTLS will be change the cyberspace message which are used to notify a record protocol to protect the subsequent record with the negotiate cybersuits and the keys. The record protocol can protect the application data by using the key which are generated during handshake signal or handshake communications. For outgoing messages, protocol will be divided, it will be compressed, it will be encrypted, then it applies the message authentication code, that is MAC code. And for incoming messages, protocol will be reassembled, it will be decompressed, it will decrypt and verify. The record header consists of the two things. The first one is the content type and second is the fragment field. So what the content type indicate, it decides the content of the fragment field. So there are three different types of the content: alert protocol, handshake protocol, and application data. Now this is a one simple example I shown for the handshake process. So we can say that handshake protocol is a complex method of complex process which involves a lot of exchange of the steps. So here the individual messages will be grouped into the message flights. So in the diagram, we can see that the client will be sending the hello message to the server. The server will be hello verify with the request. Then again client will be send the hello to the server. The server will be sending that with the server hello with server key exchange and server hello done. Then again the client will be send the client key exchange, that is maybe the change hyperspace on finish. And then again server send that change hyperspace and finish. So these are very complex methods to make the communication between the client and server through the handshake process. Now, when we talk about the security for the CoAP, there are 4 different modes. The first is a no security. The first mode means it not support the security. In this case, DTLS, that is datagram transport layer security, will be disabled. But after these 3 modes, we have some security. The first one is that pre-share keys. What indicates the pre-share keys? In this case, DTLS is enabled, which indicate that the list of pre-share keys, where each key will be include the list of nodes which used for the communications. And the second is that devices must be support the AES cybersouts. What does the AES stand for? Advanced Encryption Standards. So to provide the security at this mode, it having these 2 constraints in the second mode of your CoAP. Second, we having the raw public key. When this the raw public key DTLS is enabled, where devices uses the asymmetric key pair without a certificate, very important. And device again support the AES cybersouts and ecliptic curve algorithm for key exchange. And the last security mode is certificate, where the DTLS again enable. Device uses the standard certificate, that is X.509 certificate for the validation. Then unicast communication. In the unicast communication, client will be interact with 1 or more servers. Where the client need to know server will be using which type of the security, whether it using the certificate or it using the raw public key or it using the pre-share key with to communicate with the client. So client, when communicating more than 1 server, it must be know in the advance that server is using which method for the security. Now, when we talk about the CoAP and MQTT, what is the similarity between these 2? Now we know that CoAP and MQTT both are the IoT protocols. Okay, so but both are the open standards. Then it's better suited to the concerned environments because it's specially designed for the IoT application, so it is suited to the concerned environment definitely. Then it provides a mechanism for asynchronous communication. This is very important, right? To save the time, it run on the IP, and the last it has the range of implementation. Now, what is the difference between the CoAP and the MQTT protocol? So when you talk about the CoAP stands for Constraint Application Protocol, whereas the MQTT stands for Message Queuing Telemetry Transfer Protocol. Then when you talk about the communication type, CoAP uses a request response model, whereas MQTT uses a publish subscriber model. Then when you talk about the messaging mode, it uses both asynchronous and synchronous communication, whereas the MQTT will uses only the asynchronous communications. When you talk about the transport layer protocol, CoAP uses the UDP, whereas MQTT uses the TCP. Then when you talk about the header size of the CoAP messages is 4 bytes, whereas the MQTT is 2 bytes. Then CoAP is based upon the RESTful, MQTT is not based upon the RESTful. Then when you talk about the persistence supports, CoAP it doesn't support the persistence. That's why it's not used for the live communications. But MQTT can support, and it is used for the live communications, for the data communications. For example, we can use for the Facebook communications, we can use for the WhatsApp communications. Then when you talk about the message labeling, CoAP is having the message labeling, yes. But in the case of MQTT, we don't have the message labeling. My voice is coming properly. Hello, anyone can reply? Is there any disturbance? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, your voice is coming.
Coming.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay, thank you, sir. So when we talk about the message labeling, in the CoAP message labeling is possible, in the MQTT message labeling is not possible. And then usability and security. So we know that CoAP uses the utility area networks and has a secure mechanism, whereas MQTT don't have any standard mechanism for the security for IoT applications. Then when we talk about the number of message types, the CoAP having the 4 different types of the messages, whereas MQTT having the 16 different types of the messages. Then when you talk about the application reliability, in the CoAP it supports the 2 level of the reliability, whereas MQTT supports only 3 level of the reliability. And the last, CoAP having the security, we support the IP security or DTLS security, whereas MQTT we don't have any standards to provide the security in the MQTT protocol. That's it for today's session. Thanks for everyone for listening. Stay home, stay safe, good day. If any question, you can ask.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. And sir, I would like to ask you one question. Shall I? There is one question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, as you said that MQTT is a mobile, movable or a flexible protocol.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir,
It is a
so
actually it is a ma'am light. You can say that it's a lightweight protocol. Mostly, I told you that it's application MQTT it has been used because it works with the I just told in my session that it works on SSL layer and it works on the publish and subscribe network protocol, which is usually runs over the TCP/IP or any other network protocol that supports the order or lossless or any bidirectional connection. So that's why that's why the MQTT is mostly preferred in most of the IoT application I'm talking.
thank you so much, sir, and thank you so much, ma'am, for
Yeah.
such a informative session. And both of you have enlightened us with a lot of protocols that can be used. Basically, the major two protocols both of you have tried and completed, that MQTT as well as COAP protocol. That can be actually being used in the real time. And you people have also shared us that exactly the application wherein it can be used. Like sir has told that the MQTT can be used for the mobile, a movable kind of thing if you want to capture. So as well as this COP can be used on a real-time application for the IoT purpose. So it was such an informative session by enlightening us with where this protocol exactly can be utilized. So thank you so much, sir and ma'am, uh, for this
Thank you,
session as
ma'am.
well as the
Thanks a lot.
questionnaire that you have given us answer. And ma'am, please accept this small token of appreciation.
Thanks a lot, Bemila madam. It's my pleasure.
Thanks, sir. You also
Thank you,
please
ma'am.
accept.
Thanks a lot. It's my pleasure. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Can we leave the meeting?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. You
Okay.
both can leave.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Yes, all the attendee feedback link and the attendance link are being posted. I think you can give the feedback and then you can